Welcome to my studio. How are you doing? How's your soul today? What sort of magic are you creating in your life at this time? Just smudging my area here. I have a beautiful quote to read to you. Magic is believing in yourself. If you can do that, you can make anything happen. And that's by Johann Wolfgang van Gouda. Magic. Just kind of decided I needed a bit more magic in my life. It's been 4 weeks since we've been in isolation. And what better magic to call in than fairy magic, of course. Fairy magic is very unpredictable and mischievous and playful. And that kind of energy is what I really enjoy in my studio. So today I have bells on and I'm going to do a little altar on my table, a little fairy altar. So this is something that my father made, and my father has been gone for 35 years now. So this is going to be the base of my altar. And what is an altar? Well, an altar is just really a collection of things that have special meaning, and things that I want to consider attracting fairies, and I want to consider the 4 elements. So this is a plate that I had made when I was around, I think, 8 or 11 years old. And it was a workshop that I had done in pottery, and I've had it all this time. It's the one thing that I have that I've made in my childhood. So this is kind of special to me, and this is my earth element because it's made out of clay. So that's going to sit on the wooden jar here. And I'm going to line my plate with some cedar. It was just kind of cool. I just got to talk to my granddaughters on FaceTime, and it was so sweet to see them. They're like little fairies themselves. So it's kind of cool that I had started my video and the FaceTime video came on, and so here I was calling fairies, and my little granddaughters, who were just like 2 little fairies, I got to see them. So I've put my cedar on my plate. And I'm going to put some of this necklace of pearls. And this was my mother's. And my mother's been gone for 33 years. So this is to honor both my parents this time. And I have this beautiful crystal. This is labradorite, which is kind of a mouthful. It always reminds me of dragonfly wings. There's beautiful iridescence in labradorite, and I'm also wearing my necklace, and I have a ring as well. And so labradorite is very, very special to me. It reminds me of the Northern Lights, but it's also it reminds me of ancestors. So I think that's this idea here where I'm trying to pull in, energy of my parents, my childhood, and I'm going to place that in the middle there. So another thing that I have to attract fairies is this very tiny little chalice, and I have filled it with honey because, of course, fairies are always looking for the sweet nectar of life, and anything sweet that will attract them. And I have this little soft little bundle of feathers. I think that would make kind of a soft little pillow or something for a fairy. So I'm putting that, and that's kind of an air element. I have a little matchbox here. and it's red bird, because of course, you know, birds are very associated with fairies too. And I just have 2 matches in my little matchbox, and I thought that that would be a perfect little place for a fairy, you know, to hang out in a matchbox. And I'm going to put a little rough piece of rose quartz, and rose quartz means love. So that's going to go by the little matchbox. And this is kind of an interesting jar that I have. It's very old. And this is actually a tear collector. So at funerals, they used to give these out, and you would collect your tears. But I'm not interested in those types of tears. I'm interested more in the joyful tears. So I'm thinking about tears of celebration and tears of joy and happiness when we can socialize again and we can gather and we can hug our family. So that's my water element. And I have this little fish here that's a chopstick holder, but it's going to hold this tear vessel. Let's place that on my plate here. And I have the little heart that I had cut out in another video, and that's out of silk. So I'm just going to place that, I think by the chalice, by the honey. And I'm just going to move that over to the side here as my little altar. And just one more element that I think fairies would like, and some more air. And of course that's in bubbles. So just to bring some fun, some playfulness into my studio. And make sure I wave my hands, because you know the sound of bells will always, always attract fairies. So, our journals. The first thing I want to talk about, and this whole idea, oh, I haven't mentioned the piece in behind here yet. Yes, this piece behind me is called Enchanted Forest. And it's a secret as to why I've called it Enchanted Forest. And the only thing I'm going to hint at is that this piece hangs above my bed. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. So, potentiality in everyday objects, making art from anything that you have around the house, seeing things from a different perspective. So, I have this aluminum can here. Now, have you ever seen an aluminum can as a writing instrument? Well, it can be. So, I am not a calligrapher. I have some friends who are just beautiful, beautiful calligraphers, and I have such an admiration for the work that they do. I have dabbled a little bit in calligraphy, but not a lot. And it was actually a friend of mine who is a beautiful calligrapher who told me about Cola pens. And if you Google Cola pens, you will see a plethora of information about that. Now, you don't necessarily need to have a cola can. Any aluminum can will do. And really awesome videos as to how to construct your pen out of it. And I will just show you. Where's my pen here? So this is a larger writing device, a Cola pen. But I'm going to fashion another one for you so you can kind of see step by step how to make your own pen out of an aluminum can. So the first thing you would want to do, and you would probably want to wear gloves doing this, because the metal, once you cut into it, is just like a razor blade. It can cut you very, very badly. And I'm not actually going to physically cut this can, I'm just going to do some generalized instruction here. But I would highly recommend that you wear gloves doing this. And this is not something that you want your children doing. I mean, they could possibly use the pen after it's been fashioned, but not in the construction of it. So you would take a knife. I have a utility knife here. You could use an X-Acto knife, and you just cut down the side of the can. And once you've made an incision that way, then you can get your scissors in and cut around the base and the top. And then you have a flat piece of aluminum to work with. And you can make sure that you cut the edges so that they're not all raggedy, because they tend to be once you've cut off the top and the bottom. So you want just a nice piece of aluminum to work with. And as I said, there's a plethora of information on Pinterest, on YouTube videos about how to make these type of pens. And some of them even have come up with templates. And you know, whether you want to follow a template or not, it's a good place to start. And then of course, once you get the idea of how to make your own pen, then you can be creative, you know, and try different angles, different shapes. It's absolutely fascinating, to tell you the truth. And it's wonderful, wonderful for mark making. So once you have a good piece of aluminum, then you would cut out your template. So here is a bit of a template here, and I have creased it down the middle. Now when you crease, you don't want a perfect, you know, flattened crease. You want a bit of give, because if you flatten it too much, it will probably crack. So sometimes, you know, bending it over something like a card, a plastic card, or a ruler, it just gives you a little bit of an edge, so that it's not a full fold that will crack. And that also helps the ink to wick up into your pen. So the template that I'm using, this is the shape here. And I've actually folded mine from that shape. But it was, as you can kind of see there, a little bit. Now this is where your takeout chopsticks come in really handy. So I've broken one off from the pear, right? The bamboo sticks that you get in your takeout. You can also use popsicle sticks if you have them, or even plastic cutlery from takeout. That would also, it would all depend on your size of aluminum, or maybe you could even do this handle instead. But this fits in quite nicely. If you have dowel, that works too, or even a pencil. So yeah, you just open up your shape and you insert your bamboo, in this case a chopstick, and then you just tape it. And of course I just folded my tape onto itself. Yeah, so, and then you tape it. Just like that, so it's adhered, and I'm just going to add this other piece of tape. Now I tried, I didn't have any duct tape, and I bought Gorilla tape, which is super duper duct tape, but I just found it was a bit too sticky for me to work with. And this is just masking tape. And I'm just going to bring it down onto the chopstick. So it's not just on the metal, it's on the chopstick as well. And just make sure that that's nice and tight on there, so you can kind of get the idea here. And then I'm just going to fold that down, but not too tight. And then I have to cut an angle. So you can see on this larger one, compared to this one is still squarish. You just cut an angle that's curved. And it's really, really easy to cut aluminum cans. I used to sew on aluminum cans all the time with my sewing machine. People think that they're quite hard, but they're really, really soft. And you start at this corner here to do the curve. So just cut it across like that. And now we have this shape. So very similar, you know, and you can do all sorts of different sizes. And then, as I said, you can play with the shape of it. Now, the next important step, and you can't really bypass this step, is you need a piece of sandpaper. And you just need to run the blade across the sandpaper. And then even just along the edge here. Just like that. So the sides, and then along the curve. And that just takes away any burrs that are on the pen. Okay, now working with these pens is kind of interesting. So I have here, this is blue ink. This is Noodles ink, which is a wonderful brand. I used to have a beautiful, beautiful fountain pen that I ruined by cleaning it, unfortunately. That's an awesome ink. I also really like the Speedball Super Black India ink. And I have a little bit, because we're talking about magic, this is actually a gel stain, but I bought it for the name. It's called Unicorn Spit. And I think we all need a little bit more unicorn spit in our work. So I have these little containers here of each of the inks. And it's just a matter of dipping. So I'm going to use my large one first because I know that this one works. I haven't tried the other one yet. Because sometimes you need to alter it a little bit or wear it in. But really, really interesting mark makes. So, I mean, you know, this is kind of interesting here. And you do have to dip it into your ink quite often. So you can kind of see the word love there. But yeah, really, really, really interesting marks. And then because I have so much ink on these sides here, you can also take this like a scraper and scrape. So let's try my new pen, this one that I've made. Let's go in the black ink. See how this works. And of course, you should always wear your best clothing when you're working with this. White, preferably. Best idea. And I just love how it's so, and you get a lot of splatter when you apply, like, oh, like, I just absolutely love that, but you can't, I don't know how well you can see that. But yeah, there's just a lot of splatter there, and I'm splattering on my pages below, which is kind of cool too. mixing my inks. That's kind of cool. And let's try the unicorn spit. Oh, it's a bit thicker than ink. You tend to need a little bit more. And of course, holding the page up is not helping either, but and then you can also use like the very tip and get fine lines. I'll go with the black ink here. Or not. My other one was working well with the fine lines. You do need to ink it up quite often. It's about maybe a couple strokes and then you need to dip it back into ink. Ah, there's some nice lines there. So yeah, playing around with hearts in my name, the word love, different designs. Again, you know, so you can, if you're really quite accomplished at calligraphy, I mean, you could do extremely well with just, you know, did you think an aluminum can make a beautiful, beautiful fountain pen? And I just made some marks on fabric. I had talked about when you want to write on fabric, you apply it to some freezer paper. So I've made some marks on this fabric, and I'm actually really excited. I'm going to make something out of this piece of fabric. I'm going to do something else before I actually make, I'm going to sew it together, and that's going to do something with my beet ink, but I'll talk about that in the next video. So just a quick little idea. You know, you might think, okay, so what can I do with these papers that have just these marks on them? Well, you know, think about cutting them into shapes. So, I mean, this is just absolutely gorgeous, just as a circle on its own. And if you have, you know, these little punch outs, they're awesome for just, you know, just getting a little mark on a circle. I think that they are so, so beautiful and can be collaged together. So again, in the next video, I'm gonna do some collaging of these mark making that I've done with my aluminum can fountain pen. Thank you so, so much for joining me. I hope you have been inspired and see aluminum cans and fairies in a whole new way. And I have ink all over my hands, which I am so thrilled about because it's been such a long time that I have had ink stained hands. So much fun. Thank you. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you be filled with peace and be at ease. Until the next time.